A very good afternoon to everyone. I hope everyone's having a great day and staying safe, whatever you're doing. The sun's out, so we can't moan. Anyway, guys, thanks to all my new subscribers and to my current subscribers. Without you guys, I wouldn't be putting this content on on my channel. So, a massive thank you to everyone. I uploaded a few videos yesterday or the day before. I think it was day before yesterday, about Amusement Park, when me and my missus we took our dogs for a walk and went over Amusement Park, and we see quite a few youngsters over there, and I told them a little story about the ghost, the old grounds of where the psychiatric patients used to live. But I'm getting quite a lot of response from that, and also the subject of PTSD. I'm getting quite a lot of comments about PTSD. Many people suffer with it, and it all comes down to one thing, you know, who can you trust, who do you feel comfortable with opening up, and when you find that right person, you don't mind going back and you don't mind unravelling your story. But up until you find that person, you just bottle these things up and hold them dear to your heart. But you know, you need to find that right person to reach out to let people know what you're going through and what you've went through, and just to give them a little insight into your life, your old life. But yeah, I'm gonna have a little chat to you today about prisons, guys. Different prisons, what we've been in up and down the country. I'd like to give a massive shout out to Yammy. I know him as Sammy Misra. He's one of my good friends. We go way back, maybe 30 years, maybe 35 years. The Swell Side days, the detention centre days, the Whitemore days, the Cat A days, and we've got vast, many stories to tell you. And I'd like to announce that very shortly, me and Yammy, or me and Sam, I'm going to call him Sam because Yammy is his old nickname, and you know, I know him as Sam. So me and Sam is going to be doing a double podcast together, and sitting down on the couch and having a good chat about the good old days and the things what we used to do and the tricks what we used to pull. And you know, it's going to be an absolute belter that me and Sam are getting together. So we've got that to look forward to, guys. I don't know whether you guys noticed that, but I paused the video for a little bit because I had to go to the toilet. Sorry about that, guys, but I'm back now. So yeah, talking about prisons today, and I'm talking about Cat A jails, and also some B Cat jails and C Cat jails. They're all as bad as each other, to be honest with you. The C Cat jails are pretty violent, well, very violent, because you've got most of the inmates are doing short sentences. So if they're doing 2 years or 3 years, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they do on that sentence. If they lose all the remission, they're only going to serve that 2 or 3 years. So them guys are really dangerous, to be honest with you. The difference between the C Cat and the A Cat jails is the A Cat jails, the chaps in there are a bit more serious, and when you get hurt, you get fucking hurt. Whereas in a C Cat, you might get a punch in the mouth and a big lip and a black eye, you know, or you might even get robbed, depending on what you're doing. Because nowadays you've got gangs and the little cliques that stick together, and if you're not in a clique or you're not in a gang, it's hard really for you to get your head down and do your bird on your own, unless you're that way inclined. But if you've got a bit of a reputation, and you're known, you've got to live up to them standards, because going to jail at my age, 53, I wouldn't last 2 minutes, because there'd be someone in there what would just want to take me out just to have my just to have their status. Oh, I've done Joey Barnett. So it's dangerous. It's very dangerous for people of my age to go back into jail these days, unless obviously you're going in for things what I used to go in for years and years ago, which is armed robbery. And if you go in jail for armed robbery nowadays, you're a serious person anyway, and it's not me no more. So I'm a reformed character, and just the thought of committing crime nowadays frightens the life out of me, to be honest with you. what made me come to that was, I suppose, where I've done so much bird, I've seen so many different horrible, like, life-changing things, traumatizing things, things what give you dreams many years later, things what give you nightmares years later, and things what you can just picture in your mind happening, because I was there amongst it all, you know. So yeah, cat A jails are a little bit different. You've got most of them are long termers. You have got some short termers, but the short termers what go into cat A jails are, they're the guys what play up in the system, and the system can't handle them, so they just send them up to a cat A jail, like dumping ground. So there's quite a few short termers in cat A jails, and they're dangerous too. You know, everyone's dangerous in a cat A jail. For instance, I'll give you one example. You could be walking down the landing, and you might have been walking down that same landing every morning at the same time for like 2 or 3 years at a time, and you might be walking past like an old boy with grey hair in his late 60s. You don't say a boo to ghost. He keeps himself to himself, but where you've been saying good morning to him, like regularly every morning for the past few years, if for one morning you walk past him and you don't say good morning to him, and he looks over at you and you look at him and you don't say hello to each other, that could cause like tragic circumstances, because that old guy would go back into his cell, and I'm not saying he would, but 9 times out of 10 that's what happens in cat A jails. People go back to their cell and they start thinking things, start going over like, why isn't he talking to me, and the paranoia starts setting in, and that, you know, that's a recipe for disaster. And going back in the day, in a lot of cat A jails, when we went out onto the exercise yard for our yard, we all mixed together on a big field in Whitemore. We did anyway, where they played football on there. And even me myself, I used to walk about with hardback books wrapped all around my waist, so that, you know, because you just don't know, and you've got to protect yourself. You know, I was at it when I was in jail. You know, I was doing nonsense, I was doing bacons, whatever you want to call them, and I'd done whatever I'd done to get through my sentence, and I'd done it all at the beginning of my sentence, and at the end of it I towed the line a little bit and settled down a little bit towards the end of it. But at the start of it, I was a proper live wire, and you know, I was fighting all the time on the landings. I was an E-man, so I was an escapee, and I had a yellow-green jumpsuit on, and that's when I see Yammy, was in Belmarsh. I went to court one day, jumped the dock, come back, and I went in patches. So I was in patches for 2 years, 18 months, 2 years, and then I got sent up to Whitemore, and that's when I met Yammy again up in Whitemore. We was all up in it together, me, Yammy, Razor, Stevie Gillen. There was too many names to mention, but I ain't really going to mention too many names because I haven't got their permission to mention the names on my channel. But I know that with Yammy and that, and he's good to go. So, you know, we talk on a regular basis, and me and Yammy are going to be doing something very soon together, so it's going to be an absolute blast. But yeah, guys, you know, going to prison nowadays is a definite no-no. The system has completely and utterly changed. Drugs has changed the prison system. Everyone going back in the day used to smoke a bit of cannabis or a bit of slate rocky or whatever you want to call it, you know, and the screws didn't really care that much. Some of them used to get the and like smell it outside your cell, and then you'd get a nicking sheet underneath the door, and you'd go in front of a governor adjudication down the block, and you'd lose a bit of remission, or you get a bit of segregation unit, or you'd lose like spend your money and things like that. But that was about it. But nowadays, well, what happened was first of all it was cannabis puff, and then heroin started coming into prisons because of it was easier to get in on a visit, easier to hide, and X amount more money to sell. So the dealers were earning an absolute fortune. Like out of a £50 say bag of heroin, they were in jail. I was probably selling it for like £300 to £400, maybe even £500 when they broke it up. And that's when MDTs come in, mandatory drug testing crap. So everyone stopped smoking cannabis because if that stays in the system for 28 days, and people switched over to having a boot which is brown, smoking it on the foil. And because you can get that out of it, I'm not saying, I'm not glorifying it or nothing like that, but I'm just saying this is what happened in jails like back in the day. So instead of smoking ash, you'd have a boot on a bit of Jimmy, and you could flush it out in 2 days. So after you've done it, you drink gallons of water, you keep pissing, and you know, flush it out. And then if the screws come and suspected you for taking any drugs, by the time you'd get a piss test, you'd be clean. So that's why a lot of people switched. But then come a lot more violence with the heroin, because it's obviously a very addictive drug, and the dealers were getting the inmates addicted to it, and then like they was giving strap to people, getting people strapped up, giving them like 7 joeys for 50 quid. You've got to do an outside, get your people outside, ring them up and get them to send the money into the bank. It'd give you a few joeys up front, but then like when the money lands in the bank, you'd get the 7 joeys. Well, what the dealers used to do is let a lot of users get strapped right up to like £200-300, and then you know they're banging trouble, they can't pay it, the dealers are dangling the carrot at them, and that is when the violence comes in, because that's when the dealers go up to the users and take them into a cell, put a bit of strong arm on them, give them a dig, you know, frighten the life out of them, and you know, that's when they say to them, right, you can't pay the debt and you've got to do this to me, blah blah blah, or this one or this one or this one. You know, they send people into different inmate cells and rob things out of people's cells, and you know, when people are in bed, they're like doing people over the head with things, table legs and things. A lot of violence goes on, and that's all down to heroin. So very you've got to be very careful if you do go to jail, what circle you mix in, and you know, you've got to stay away from drugs, because it's a very different world inside to what it is outside on drugs. It's a very violent world, and many people die, many people hang themselves, many people overdose, you know, many people get more sentences in jail, and the public don't get to hear about it. You just basically get lost in the system. And then come along spice, so that took a whole new meaning, and it took it to another level altogether. So when I was in Wayland, the last time I was away, which was in 2010, spice, I don't know how long it had been in the jails, but it was in, and a big population of users in Wayland, what used to like smoke heroin or used to smoke cannabis, was now smoking spice. And the things what I see in there, I couldn't even mention on YouTube. I wouldn't even put it on there because the content would be too bad to put on there. The things what I see, I even see a few suicides down to spice. So, you know, so this video, guys, is just a little video just to give you a little insight into what happens in Cat A jails. Like, they're very dangerous places, and if you're not a big player and you can't hold your hands up, you're not going to last 2 minutes in there. You know, you wouldn't get bullied because bullies are not tolerated, but you type of get drawn into different cliques. So it's like the old saying, water finds its own level, and you do what you've got to do on the big sentences to get through them. So at the beginning, when you get these big sentences, like it doesn't really matter what you do. As far as I was concerned, it didn't. Like, for instance, I'll give you one example. In Parkhurst, there was a screw in there, and I always said he was interbred because he looked like his brother-in-law, and his brother-in-law worked in there. So this screw was married to the other screw's partner. They're like, we used to say they're all interbred on the island. But anyway, this screw, he kept on digging me out. I don't know whether he was jealous of me. There was a clash of personalities or something along them lines. But you know, he kept digging me out, and he kept like giving me different nicking sheets for silly little things. It mounted up, and I was going down to segregation, and I was getting solitary confinement, and I was coming out, and like he was on the landing, and he was smirking at me, and he was taking a piss. Do you know what I mean? So this went on for a few weeks, and you know, I wasn't long into my 12-year sentence then. So what I decided to do was get a mop bucket, fill it up with shit for 2 days, and baby oil, squirt it all up with shit and piss. And the mop bucket was halfway full with shit, piss and baby oil. And when this screw was sitting in the office, I got this bucket, walked along the landing, opened the office door, and I just parked it straight on his head. So You know, that was the measures what I used to do when I was away, and I've got hundreds of different stories or things like that. Obviously, you know, I got bent up. I got 2 of my fingers broke. I got sent down the segregation unit, and I got shipped out from there for doing that, for shitting and pissing to screw up. But that's the message. That's the message you go to. You know, when you're in that frame of mindset and you're not thinking straight and you're not. You just don't care. It's very, very dangerous. It didn't matter if I lived or died. It was that type of mindset I was on at that time. At the end of my sentence, as I said, I did knuckle down a little bit, but I've done what I've done to get through it. So anyway, guys, I'm going to leave this video here. Cheers, everyone, for subscribing. Please keep them comments coming in. Give me a little bit of direction on what you want me to talk about next, and we'll set something up. But have a great day, guys. Whatever you're doing, please stay safe. Much love. Peace.